Well, good morning, everybody. Sammy and UPTV, and we're in for a lovely show. Ooh, it's been a fun start to the season, isn't it? Ooh, we've enjoyed this. After finishing 15th last season, the United fan base was always going to be teetering on the edge, starting the season with a defeat and then a loss, and now all the Kobbie story that's coming out. Yep, it's just gone full-blown straight away. Fantastic. Really enjoying it. Can't wait. Look, I'm going to cover the whole story from Laurie Whitwell and the Athletic this morning. I'm not sure if you can actually tell, but I'm pretty pissed off. I'll be totally honest. All right, I didn't. It's not that I didn't think there was substance to the story. I was just hoping it was kind of part of it, and it still may well be, right? It still may well be all part of the agent game to try and get a deal. But I'm going to run through Laurie Whitwell's article this morning because there's loads of detail in it that I'll be honest, I'm like, what? Just confusing. And then, of course, we play Grimsby later, and mate, we've got to pump them. We have to slap Grimsby up, all right? And you can let me know what you think in the comments because, yeah, this is going to be a spicy show. I'm telling you here right now, I do not have the energy to continue what happened last season. Like, I was beyond drained at the end of last season, completely beyond drained. I don't really have an ability to step away from it, to step out of it. And no, man, I can't do that again. I cannot do that again. Right, let's see who's here from the mods and the members, and let's get into today's show. And Carl, good morning to both of you. Josh and I see you there, mate. We've got Chadwell, Richard. We've got United Watcher, Teresa, Kagotso. Good morning to everybody. Stu, I can see you there as well. Right. Let's run through the story. Now, I covered it yesterday, and the conversation around Kobbie's future at Manchester United has been going on for a long-ass time. A long time. He's not signed the contract. It's now, the Athletic are now suggesting that he's on 20 grand a week. That's what he's on. And I'll speak about the requests for how much he's been asking for because they also mentioned that. But Kobbie last season, if you're looking at what happened post the Euros, right? Came back, was fatigued, was injured, got injured quite badly, ended up not really playing at all for Ten Hag before he was sacked. Amram came in, I think he was still injured, played a few games, kind of went out. It was a complete stall of a season for Kobbie. After the breakthrough that he had, he was definitely overplayed after the Euros. And then we go into this season, he had his off-season, he was putting the work in, etc., etc. I don't need to fucking explain the full story to you, man. I can't be bothered. This one's got me. I can't even pretend that I'm not pissed off at the idea of this. I really, really can't. I can't even really sit on the fence about it. This just should not be a conversation. This should not be anything that's even slightly considered by Manchester United in any way, shape or form. And Kobbie is too good a player who's come from the academy. And yes, that fucking matters. Because you talk about the identity of our football club, the culture of our football club. You can throw whatever you want at me. But the academy is the absolute heartbeat of it. And we do things differently to other clubs. I don't care what anyone's doing at Chelsea. It's part of the modern day football that there's so much of modern football I hate. But something I really hate is that clubs are incentivized to sell academy players so they can increase their spending and go and sign other players. I hate that part of it. And I don't want us to become a club that follows suit. We have always done things differently with academy. And we've always been the best academy. In turn, if you look at the English Football League, no club has contributed more than Manchester United over the years. Now, I'm going to read through this article, and I'll engage with as much of you as I possibly can, but there's a lot of information in this that I need to get through, okay? Let me try and read some of your comments out first. Yeah, I'm pissed. Alex, you're saying, Sam, is this purely PSR and contract fuel rumour? I don't really know. Like we're seeing prices like 45 million getting banded around from the Athletic. 45 million. What, in a summer where Wolves are rejecting 55 million for Strand Larsen, and Madueke's going for 50 mil, and Ilanga's going for 55 mil, and we want 50 mil for Garnacho. And you're trying to tell me that United might be willing to accept 45 mil now for Mainoo, and even like there's certain things in this article which don't match up that make you go, huh? Like head scratching. That's one of them, that price. Now I'm going to run through it here. I'm going to try and pull out some key details. Right. I've highlighted some of them down here. Right. You don't need to read the whole article. I'll just give you some key details. Right. Questions over Mainoo's playing time. They're nothing new. As a result, Kobbie is open to leaving his boyhood club before the transfer window closes on Monday, having discussed as much with teammates, which is what was reported yesterday. United, meanwhile, have been considering the prospect of selling him all summer. Now, is that just a bit of, I wouldn't call it performative, but is that just like the club going back and forth with his agent to try and gain leverage and maybe. All right, maybe. Down here, Mainoo has been identified internally as a potential departure since the start of the window in June. And you'll remember the reaction that there was to, I think it was last January, wasn't it? When the reports first emerged linking Garnacho and Mainoo with exits, saying that United were willing to sell both. Everybody was angry about both of them, but in particular, Kobbie. I think half the people were kind of accepting the Garnacho stuff. Down here, people at Old Trafford expect him to remain a United player beyond next week's deadline. And I think that's quite important there. That's being said by a lot, pretty much everywhere. Mainoo's not expected to leave before Monday. But if I'm going to give a hot take here, right? If I'm going to give a hot take, I would expect Chelsea to come in with a bid for Kobbie Mainoo now within the next 48 hours. That's what I would expect to happen. Does he have a place inside the Chelsea squad? No, it doesn't matter. Chelsea just sweep up players left, right and centre. I expect with all this noise, Chelsea will come in and try and disrupt the boat even more. And they'll probably try and go in at 45 mil. That's kind of what I think. Someone down there is saying this, like, who's that? Fan base is crazy, going on like Mainoo is prime Zidane. You're just fucking missing the point. Totally missing the point. This isn't about, I mean, you can argue if you want to that it's about how good Kobbie is right now, and we know how good Kobbie is right now, but that's kind of besides the point. Kobbie is the future of that position at Manchester United. And look, everybody who's been a follower of United People's TV for long enough will know how much of a Bruno Fernandes supporter I am. And I've defended him against so many comments on here for so long. But I would sell Bruno Fernandes before I would sell Kobbie Mainoo. That's where I stand on it. As one of his biggest supporters, because I'm looking at someone who is the future of the club in that position. And that's why it doesn't match up to me, the idea that United would be selling Bruno Fernandes' replacement before selling Bruno Fernandes. That makes no sense. Absolutely none to me. I'll go through the next part of the article. I'll read out some of your comments. Talina saying Manchester United with no academy players who can realistically get in the first team. This is worse than finishing 15th. Who else we got there? We've got Aiden Heaven doesn't count, does he? Fredrickson. Yeah, it's looking pretty damn bleak right now. At a time when our academy is the bloody strongest it's been in a long time. It's just that a lot of those players are kind of 18 or under. They are young. Let me see what you're saying down here. Chelsea would bid 30 mil? Yeah, probably. Sigmund saying in 18 months we'll be looking for a Kobbie to replace Bruno. What was he saying down there? It's pissed me off, man. What did it say? There was somebody who left a comment on a live show. When was it? I think it was last season. It's better to be a Manchester United fan when Manchester United are not playing. Man, he was right. Mo's saying, I'm sorry, but I'm choosing Kobbie over a manager who hasn't won back-to-back games. And like, Mo, I'm going to come at you here, Mo, but I'm going to go at everybody else. Like, why do people do this? Like, it's not a player versus manager conversation. Why do people try and take something that's happening here and try and turn it into something else? It's like they've been waiting for something to latch onto to then throw a conversation behind it. Like, just piss off. It's just tiresome. This is a conversation about, honestly, like the underlying culture of this football club. And Amorim, by the way, and I've agreed on this, and I've said this since the beginning, Bruno and Mainoo should be competing for a place together. But in order for him to compete, you need to give him minutes. I'm going to speak about that next. Right, there's more information in this, and I really want to speak about quite a few things in here. Right, this is probably one of the most confusing parts of this article from Leigh Whitwell this morning. Aside from the pursuit of Carlos Baleba, a dream target who is considered too expensive to prize away from Brighton, United's summer-long search for a midfielder has focused more heavily on identifying an alternative to Bruno Fernandes and somebody who would play alongside either Casemiro or Ugarte. And that one's probably got me scratching my head. So all summer long, United have not been looking for a Baleba-style midfielder. They've instead been looking for a Mainoo replacement and are happy that Ugarte and Casemiro will do enough in midfield. That, honestly, I swear, that doesn't make sense. I know you can... I know you can have your frustrations towards Amorim. I know you can have your frustrations towards Ineos, but like that, mate, they're not that dumb. Bizarre is the word I would use there. Like, That's proper made me scratch my head, that one. What? And then after all of that, you then decide to pivot completely away from the fact that you've been looking for a Bruno alternative all summer, and then the only midfielder that you actively make a move for is Carlos Baleba. No, that doesn't match up. It does not match up. There's certain things inside this, and this isn't me like pointing a finger at Leigh Whitwell at all, because I think he is a journalist I very much respect, because he knows how important his own reputation is. So it's a case of like only putting stuff out that you have confidence in, and they're the journalists I trust. There are certain journalists that will say anything. They're like performative monkeys. They'll just do anything and say anything to get engagement. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. Don't care. Leigh Whitwell is not one of those. But that confuses me. And it may well be that this is coming from the club. I don't quite know. But it's confusing me. The idea that United all summer long, the only part of the midfield that United have been happy with this summer, we've got Ugarte and Casemiro. What we actually need is an alternative to Bruno. Like, come on. That's never been the case. At any point this summer. That's probably one of the things that's confused me the most about this. And there's unfortunately some more confusing parts of it. Jammy Jam Jars with a great username. Saying, if we got Baleba next summer, as much as I love Bruno, we should sell him and put Kobbie in his place. Mainoo and Baleba is a class pairing. Well, it seems like that's the vision, right? That's for me is the vision. Maybe it's not the vision that Ineos share. I don't quite know. Bit more information down here. Bayern Munich explored the possibility of a move for Mainoo. And then down here is a proper head scratcher for everybody, right? Mainoo's thought to prefer moving to the continent rather than staying in the Prem. But look, when Chelsea inquired about his availability during the January window, Stamford Bridge officials were quoted a 70 mil price. But there is a belief that United would now accept around 45 million and potentially even less as the deadline draws near. Like, I don't really know where to start with that idea. Even the 70 million. Really, really and truly, even the 70 million, let alone 45 million. Now, I don't need to run through the list of players this summer who have gone for bloody more than that. I did some at the start of the show. It's just outrageous. This idea that, no, and this is what I mean, it doesn't match up. It's like, it's kind of such a ludicrous price that you just make, what? Nah. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, the idea that United all summer long were actually actively looking for a Bruno alternative rather than that powerful, athletic, dynamic midfielder that we were told that we were looking for all summer. Everything that that doesn't match up. And then here, the idea that United would accept 45 mil or even less makes no sense. And that's kind of half my feeling I'm getting from this article. Like, some of it just doesn't really make sense. And I think, well, I can see down here from the chat, a lot of you agree on this. And what I want to do here is kind of speak about this article, or speak about, I suppose, the Kobbie situation from 3 different angles. And I want you to get involved in the comments. We can speak about Kobbie and his frustrations. I'm going to speak about Amrim in terms of his involvement in this, and also speak about Wilcox and Ineos and their involvement in this, because they've all contributed to the situation we've got right now. If I'm Kobbie, I think it's fair to be frustrated at the start of the season. Something that was, well, you don't need me to tell you this, but we are only 2 games into the season. But I knew this, and I say this as, I consider myself a pretty reasonable United fan. I try not to react to things too early. I try and wait for it to emerge, try and wait for more details. I don't care if I'm not first to a story. I'd rather come with the full story. But I knew this season, because we finished 15th last year, because we lost the Europa League final, it wasn't going to take much to light the fan base. It really wasn't. And here we are. A defeat to Arsenal, but I think the majority of us felt like, as far as a good defeat goes, you can't get good defeats, but it was a defeat that gave you positivity looking forward to the rest of the season. And then you go and get that Fulham performance that follows it up, that was effectively a repeat of the problems from last season, and then you add the Kobbie stuff on top of it. The fan base has just erupted again. And that's because of what happened last season. Now, for Kobbie himself, he's clearly been putting in the yards in pre-season, but there's something I want to run through that I actually haven't down here, and this is where it comes to wages, which I think is ultimately probably one of the most important things about all of this, really. And here, right? Mainoo is currently paid 20 grand a week. Conversations over a new extended deal have taken place over the past year and have understandably centred around a hike to that salary. As a key player for the club, Mainoo was hoping for a substantial improvement to his terms and potentially up to 10 times those present wages. You can do the maths. 10 times 20 grand. Yes, that's 200 grand. Now, this is what I mean. It's not as if, I suppose there are always 2 sides to a story. And we'll continue speaking about the frustrations that Mainoo fairly has. But you're off your rocker. Right? Like, you're off your rocker. There's absolutely no way in hell that Kobbie should be getting 200 grand a week. Like, no chance. You can come out, oh yeah, by the way, yeah, but Casemiro's on 350. Don't point at my club's old mistakes as justification for how much money you should be getting. It's kind of what happened with Alexis Sanchez and Ander Herrera. Sanchez was on nuts money. Herrera then wanted a bigger slice of the pie as a consequence. Club said no. He went to PSG. That is a ridiculous salary demand. And I say this as a big Kobbie fan. This football club needs to and we've started it with all the signings that Ineos have made so far. I think they're all on less than 200 grand. Like every single signing we've made so far has been on less than 200 grand. So the idea that Kobbie, and this is mainly going to be coming from his agent, by the way. Like, obviously, Kobbie will be saying kind of, oh, this is where my limit is, or this is what I would take, blah, blah, blah. But it's going to be the agent doing the negotiating. But, like, mate, like the idea that they were actually genuinely asking for up to 10 times and then pointing towards Casemiro being on 350 grand a week is genuinely laughable. And it's most likely why this impasse still exists. He's on 20 grand a week now. Obviously deserves more than that. But if you think I would want us to go to 200 grand for Kobbie, nah, you're wrong. And this is kind of where we're at this sort of loggerheads. Someone's saying Chelsea won't pay that. No one's paying that. No one's paying that. Anyway, we'll see what you're saying down here. Might have missed some super chats. Yeah, I'm annoyed this morning. I think that's a bit obvious, isn't it? Rex is saying, people are saying Ineos know what they are doing, but it's business basics to protect your investments. Do you think Chelsea are just stirring the pot? I think Chelsea will stir the pot by throwing in a bid. If we sold Kobbie Mainoo, I would really, really question what the vision is. Totally honest. I would. Like this idea that Manchester United's academy has always been the core of it. Yeah, I know that Kobbie's got his flaws as a player. Yeah, I know he's not the complete finished product. But if you really think that I would be happy enough for Manchester United to move him on when he is 20 years old, nah. I would want to keep him at the club, develop and help him develop into a role which fits perfectly. I'm not saying to change the whole system to accommodate an individual player, nor would I ever. I think that would be foolish. But Kobbie is simply too talented an individual to simply go, never mind. Move him on. Other clubs might do that. I do not want Manchester United to do that. And I don't care what other clubs would do. And there's two ants down there. Ant W saying, those who support this can't understand what Manchester United are about. Sell Bruno to Saudi and bring in Baleba and have a Kobbie-Baleba partnership. As I said earlier, man, if I'm sitting here and I'm speaking about the long-term vision of this club, I love Bruno Fernandes, but he's not part of the long-term vision. He's been here for the suffering that we've had over these last... When did he join? January 2019? Was that it? I don't know how long he's been here. 6 years? About that. But Kobbie is far more of somebody who's going to be part of the future of this club than Bruno. So if I have a choice between the two, I would choose Kobbie. And as I said, I'm saying that as somebody who's Bruno's biggest bloody fan. It always annoys me that people that, again, drag this conversation, this, favoritism will be the downfall of Emery. I'm like, piss off, man. You're just repeating the conversations that you had. Ten Hag, favoritism this, favoritism that. No, it's just a player's getting played who you don't want to be played, and then you label it as favoritism. No, it's just a different opinion to what you have. But not giving any minutes and not having the competition that you say you are giving, that's an issue. And you're saying we've lost far better players before. Dude, I don't think this is about... This isn't about the quality of Mainoo and if he leaves, oh my God, United are ruined, and oh my God, he'll go on and be an incredible player elsewhere. I think it's more about what it means, if I'm being totally honest. Just for United to decide that selling probably the most talented midfielder to come out of the academy since Pogba at the age that he's at after his breakthrough season, and to kind of turn the back on him just wouldn't be United. And to decide that the best option would be to sell him and then invest in someone else. Different. Now, I think Kobbie has every right to be frustrated. And it is early this season. We will see him start tonight. And I hope he absolutely smashes it. And it may well be that United, I don't know, you might then see him start against Burnley. I don't know whether you'd see him start against Burnley, but then you'll see him coming off the bench again. I don't know. Of course, then we've got City away coming after the international break. You know that after the first 2 international breaks this time, it's unreal. We've got City away. Is it Liverpool at home? I think it's Liverpool at home. But we've got City and Liverpool after the 2 international breaks. Terrific news. Now, I want to know, as I said, I've spoken about from Kobbie's perspective a little bit there. I think asking for up to 200k is a madness. It's a proper madness. And I stand with the club on that. There's no way that we should be giving, let's be honest, any academy player 200 grand. No player at Manchester United should really be on that sort of money until you're, I don't know, mid-20s. That's when you're coming to your peak as a player. That's the biggest contract that you are going to get as a Manchester United player. And you get that when you have established yourself as one of the absolute leaders of the team. There's no chance that he should be given that much money. And I agree with the club on that. Unfortunately, I don't know where the compromise is. I really don't. And clearly United don't. And clearly Mainoo's agent doesn't, because that's why he's not signed the contract. I think we had this conversation before. And I think we all sort of agreed somewhere in the region of 100 to 150. Which, by the way, is a 500. The article from The Athletic says he's on 20 grand a week. You do the maths. 500% increase on your current wage would take it to 100 grand a week. Now, of course, the fact that he's on 20 grand is, I suppose, in the exact same way that I can't use Casemiro being on 350 grand a week as a yardstick for him to say I want 200. I can't then say that him being on 20 grand a week would be a 500% increase to bring up to 100k. But I think 100 to 150 is very, very relative. I wonder what Euro's on. I wonder what someone down there, Euro and Ahmad. These are the players, I think, levels-wise, contract-wise, that's where the conversation should be around Kobbie. Not what we paid Real Madrid for a 30-year-old 5 times Champions League playing midfielder. Anyway, what's your take on Amrim's part in all of this? So we've spoken about it from Kobbie's perspective. I want to speak about it from Amrim's perspective. And then next I'm going to be speaking about Ineos. I think all three have to be considered. I think last season, Kobbie actually had, I think he completed 5 full games under Amrim. And I think one thing we can all agree on here, right? We can all agree on. Mainoo isn't favoured by Amrim. Whether that's a trust thing, whether that's a position thing, whether it's a system thing, I don't quite know, right? You can kind of guess and speculate on that. But it's obvious that he doesn't completely want him in his starting 11. Like he made, was it 7 minutes? I think he came off the bench against Bilbao, scored the equaliser. Yeah, it was equaliser because Maguire got the winner. Did he even play in the final? Can't remember if he played in the final. We're chasing the game against Fulham, and people are annoyed at Amrim for doing that. In that second half against Fulham, we offered absolutely sweet FA going forward. And the only way we scored was a goal from a set piece. And then people got really, really annoyed and angry that we were bringing on Maguire in heaven for the last. United ended up playing like Stoke at the end of that game because they couldn't seem to break that low block down. That's why Maguire in heaven went on. And then Maguire nearly scored the bloody winner. Johnny's saying 38 games missed in 2 seasons through injury. That's quite a lot, isn't it? Mainoo has not yet earned enough to be aligned with Yoro, Amina Mazraoui, Martinez in terms of wages. I think around 100 grand a week is a more than fair representation of the importance of Mainoo to Manchester United. The position where he is, the fact that he still has to develop. Yeah, just the idea that surely his agent wouldn't have been asking for up to 10 times 200 grand a week. Surely not. Don't know. Sam, do you think it's an attitude thing? Because he's only 19 and he comes across as very quiet and introverted, can sometimes come across as rude or uninterested. Well, everyone's always going to criticize. You're either like too loud or you're too quiet. You're never just like, oh, he's just a normal guy. I've never really had any reason to question anything about Kobbie's attitude, Kobbie's ethics, Kobbie's work ethics. He seems a completely decent and normal lad off the pitch. He seems a completely decent and normal lad on the pitch. And if anything, he's just kind of got ice in his veins, even scoring the winner against Wolves. Calm down. It's all right. I was going mad. 4-3, 94th minute winner for United after being... That game was nuts. Still, calm. I think... Well, clearly it's happened. Amram has contributed to the frustrations here with Kobbie. I wonder what will happen from this one. For what it's worth, I don't think Kobbie's leaving this summer. Right? That's just my take. I don't think United now in these last 4 days of the window that we're all of a sudden just going to sell Kobbie. Right? Okay. Fantastic. I can't see it happening. Someone down there saying they're pushing him out. Jack Fletcher taking Mainoo's position. You don't push him out. And look, and again, you know what I was saying about the article itself is there's just some parts of it that just make me go, really? Like the idea that United have always had Kobbie on the sale list this summer and that 70 mil was the price tag. Now, I'm sorry, right? If 70 mil was the price tag of Kobbie Mainoo and we've been kind of happy for him to be sold all summer, mate, he would have gone weeks ago. 70 mil for Mainoo in a summer where Brentford want 50 to 60 mil for Visser. In a summer where Langer's gone for 55 mil. You want 70? Yeah, come. Done. Where do I sign? Have it all up at once. Don't really care. If we were willing to sell him for 70 mil all summer, he would have been gone. Let alone the fact that we're now willing to sell him for 45 mil or even less. Doesn't match up. And just the idea of selling Mainoo doesn't really match up. Like Jason Wilcox is somebody, if you're looking at the real experience is that the real experience he has so far working in football is with academies. That's where he started at City and he came through, I think he was the academy director there. Then he went to Southampton and he was, again, he came in as director of football there. But his main experience and understanding is with younger players, is with academies. So there's absolutely no way that he will come into United and just completely overlook and dismiss the damage that it would do with the fan base to sell Mainoo. I don't think so anyway. Someone down there saying don't use logic when talking about United's strategy. Like I've understood the strategy this summer. But to be honest, I understood what Ten Hag was trying to do when we signed Mason Mount and he wanted to switch to a system with 1 number 6 and 2 number 8s. I understood it. I mean, it wasn't right, but I understood it. What's your take on Ineos's involvement in this whole Kobbie situation? How do you think they're looking at it? Because that's what I mean. You've got to do it from three perspectives. You've got to do it from Kobbie's, what he wants. You've got to do it from Amrim, what he needs. And you've got to do it from the clubs and what they think is right for A, the football club, but B, the business. Let me see what you're saying down here. The more you think about it, the less all this news makes sense. Look, it definitely makes sense that Kobbie's frustrated, right? He's put in the yards. He's worked hard in the off-season. He's worked hard in the pre-season. And United aren't exactly flourishing in midfield, are we? And yet his opportunities are limited. Hey, look, anybody would be frustrated in that sense. That's very normal, very par for the course. Anti saying Sam Wilcox, Vivell and Amrim are all experts with the youth. What do they know that we don't? That's the question. It can't be anything. Well, I suppose it could be. But for me, it doesn't feel like anything more than a profile and where strengths and weaknesses lie. I don't think there's going to be anything that comes out about Kobbie's character and doing this. Oh, he's caused problems yet. He's not doing that, man. That's not Kobbie. It's not. Now, whether he exactly fits the midfielder and the profile which Amrim wants, no, that's where the questions lie. But this idea of selling Kobbie is stupid. If Kobbie himself wants to push out of United because of the lack of opportunities, I think there's more likeliness of that being the case than there is from United actively pushing him out. But I suppose you could say United not playing him is United actively pushing him out. Let me see what you're saying down here. There's absolutely no need to make a big deal about Mainoo sitting out for 2 games. Clearly, he's not above Bruno. Honestly, if you really do think that this is about Kobbie sitting out for 2 games, then I think you kind of ignored what's been happening for, what we now probably best part of a year? Well, I suppose just under a year. Everything that's been developing over last season and the fact that the contract still has not been signed, this just adds more on top of it. It's not literally just a reaction to the fact that he hasn't started or played a minute in the first 2 games in the Premier League. It's just not the case. It's the consequence of a long-standing standoff between the club and Kobbie. This is the latest part of it. What's he saying down there? And yeah, I think I just want to finish the Kobbie chat on that note, really. Oh, great. I would not understand the vision if the club were willing to let Kobbie Mainoo be sold before Bruno Fernandes. And this is not me actively asking for Bruno to be sold and to push him out the door. And you know my point on it, when I was happy when Bruno rejected Saudi earlier in the window, and I felt that Bruno, I'd like to have him for 1 more season as a leader, and then for next summer, for Bruno to leave and for Kobbie to come through. Like, the pathway was there. It felt like it just matched up. And that this season we would see Kobbie and Bruno going toe-to-toe and competing for the same spot. And then maybe Kobbie emerges across the course of the season because he just flourishes and great and he plays even more. Or maybe he's a little bit quieter. I don't quite know how that was going to happen. But just the idea that United would be willing to sell Kobbie, keep Bruno, probably then sell Bruno next summer, and I imagine then go and sign out a replacement for Kobbie. That's just not connected up thought process. That's what I mean. Like, a fair amount of this makes me go, odd. Yeah, there were murmurings of Mainoo possibly being for sale back in January. That's when we saw about Garnacho as well. I reiterate that comment that someone gave me last year. It really is easier to be a Manchester United fan when United aren't playing. I had a great time this summer. It felt like the club was kind of being a little bit repaired. It felt a little bit more lighthearted. It felt a little bit more, I don't know, fun for the players. And you might say, hold on here, Sam. You're not allowed to have fun. You finished 15th last year. I'm not saying that I'm not saying you're not putting the hard work in, but if you can put the hard work in and have a little bit of fun at the same time and get the results, then you're onto a winner from a business perspective and a football club perspective. And then here we are 2 games into the season, and yeah, seems like an appropriate time to play a team called Grimsby. And David, someone down there saying, no more players, FC United, sell them all. This is not. And anybody who's trying to drag this conversation into player FC versus manager, it is not about that. And that's not why I'm angry. I'm not sitting here as a Mainoo stan saying, oh, we can't possibly replace Oh, my God. That's not what I'm saying. The academy is the fundamental core and the culture of this football club. And we do things differently. We always have and we always will. And it's why no club in the entire English Football League has contributed more than Manchester United in terms of players across the football leagues. And just the idea that we would turn our backs on Kobbie and consider him a saleable player at a time where I think Bruno's probably in his last season and Mainoo is his successor, that doesn't match up. And I really am, I'll be honest, I'm a bit scared about it. I'm scared of United following in the footsteps of Chelsea and other clubs as well, who then now use the academy as a way to prop up their spending. That's all Chelsea give a toss about when it comes to their academy. What players can we sell? City do it to a certain degree as well, but Chelsea definitely the worst. I don't want Manchester United to go down that path. I want us to do it differently. Too sentimental, Sam. I don't really know how I'm being too sentimental about it. I just understand the importance of the academy to this club. And yeah, it's going to be more than other clubs. It's going to be more than anything that Liverpool fans or anything that City fans or Chelsea fans or Arsenal fans would say, because they're not fucking Man United. And the academies are different to those clubs compared to what they are to United. So it is different. And it should be. And if you can't understand that, I'm really not sure you understand Manchester United, if I'm being totally honest. Down there, I don't know who's that firing a comment. The obsession with youth and academy players is why we are where we are now as a club. So thank you for confirming to me that you don't really know anything about what Manchester United is. Appreciate that. Sam, I understand Manu's frustration with the World Cup round the corner. Wants game time. Everyone wants game time with the World Cup coming up. He's got no chance of getting into the team right now. And he's saying, ultimately, the way I look at it is if Kobbie's good enough, he will force his way into the team eventually. I think that I partly agree with that comment, Ant, because you can't really force your way into the team unless you get given minutes. So tonight is going to be an opportunity. And I'll speak about a little bit on Hojlund and Anthony, the other exits. Let's just quickly have a conversation about tonight because we are playing tonight. Tonight's going to be the opportunity for Mainoo. Now, you're going to laugh at me and say, well, hold on, Sam, United are playing Grimsby. Yeah, sure, but it doesn't matter who we're playing. Right now, all the conversation about Kobbie is he's not playing, he's frustrated, contracts. No one's talking about football, right? So tonight is an opportunity for him to start the game, and I think he will start the game, and to change the conversation back to being about football. And this is the team I predicted for tonight. I put Kobbie in there with Ugarte, just a complete switch. Right? I've gone for Heaven in for Shaw, Maguire in for Delict. I actually kept Yoro in there. I think he'll be fit enough, and I'd like him to start. You could play... I don't know who you play there. Mazraoui's not fit. So you probably play Delo maybe as a right-sided centre-back. That's a bit weird. Yeah, I think Yoro will start. I know Nana I've gone in goal. I don't really know what's going on with Saint Lemons. I'm seeing reports suggesting that Galatasaray have actually come in and put in a bigger bid than United, so it's just down to negotiations around the price. And I've gone for Kobbie in midfield with Ugarte. I think it probably the best that the midfielders looked this season. I think it was West Ham. Was it Bournemouth? I think it was West Ham. I think it was West Ham in the pre-season. And in that game, United's press was probably one of the best I'd seen it. It worked. It really, really worked. If Fredrickson, he could play. I don't know whether he will or not. Maybe. Depends. I've kept Ahmad in because I think Ahmad, needs a bit of a spark, I suppose, for the season. And you can see I've gone for Diego Leon to make his debut. Give Dorgu a rest. Diego Leon against Grimsby. Makes sense. And I've gone for as strong a front three as I can. I've gone for Cunha. I've gone for Šeško. I've gone for Mbeumo. I want United to absolutely annihilate Grimsby. I don't want them to come out of this as like a 1-0 win with an 87th minute Maguire header. I want United to absolutely rip Grimsby apart. I want it to be 4-5-6-1. I want them to keep going forward and keep attacking because we need a bit of confidence. We need some goals, man. And all these conversations about Kobbie and Bruno and this and that. We spent £200 million this summer to score more goals. So United have got to start doing it. I don't care about a previous record against Grimsby. I don't care about how many corners they've scored from. I don't care about any of that. I just want to see United put Grimsby to the sword tonight. That's what this team needs to do. Like if our finishing was better against Arsenal, we would have scored 1, if not 2 goals. If our finishing was better against Fulham, we would have scored 1, if not 2 goals. And it's the exact same as last season, but with a brand new attack. Someone down there saying, you want Cheeto to start? No, Cheeto's not starting tonight. Šeško, make his first start in a United shirt. Get him that first goal. Get Cunha's first goal for the club. Get Mbeumo's first goal for the club. No offence to Cheeto, but it's more important to get those 3 with their first goals for the club and G'd up than it would be to give Cheeto his opportunity. And you never know, depending on how the game goes. You might get him on later in the game. Someone down there saying it's been 2 games, for fuck's sake. The truth is, and this is why United fans are pissed off in the way that they are. Because we've lost and drawn, even though the performance was good against Arsenal, because of what followed was a Fulham game which kind of undid some of that feeling of positivity, it's now felt like game 39 and 40 of last season more than it's felt game 1 and 2 of a new season. And it's the continuation. I'm telling you, like, United fans are on, you don't need me to tell you, United fans are on the verge and kind of have been on the verge for a while. It doesn't need much to light the fire anymore. Let alone the idea that Manchester United could and are happy to move on one of the best academy prospects that this club has seen in a long, long time in a position where we're desperate because he doesn't quite fit. In terms of other news, in terms of look, we've got 5 days left in this window. Not one member of the bomb squad has gone. Not one member. And I said this to you quite often. Like, I still stand by the fact that I love the signings that we made. But a lot of how Ineos were going to be judged on changing perceptions and changing how United are sort of dealing with things in the window was going to be sales, right? Now, the Hojlund conversation was It's not one that we're surprised about, considering the season he had last season. But I wouldn't have put it down as a priority. But you can see down there, right? And again, add that into the idea that Manchester United might be willing to let Kobbie go for £45 million or less. But we're going to try and get a €45 million obligation with Napoli for Hojlund. But no, yeah, that's what I mean. That there's certain things in that just don't piece together. I don't think so anyway. But that would be a good deal for United, right? I think it would be I think what it would end up being is a loan move with a loan fee. Let's call it 6-7 mil, wages covered, and it becomes an obligation. Now, if United are smart and they've learnt from what happened with Chelsea, make sure that that contract with an obligation includes a 50% penalty. So if you don't take up that obligation, you're going to have to pay us 22.5 mil. Because I guarantee you Chelsea wouldn't have done that. If Chelsea had to pay United, what was it? 25 mil obligation, I think they had. They wouldn't have paid 12.5 mil as a fine. They would have just signed him and then sold him. Or tried to anyway. So I imagine they learned from that. And that would be quite a big sale for United. Anthony looks like he's going closer to Real Betis. It feels like... Honestly, it feels like Real Betis are probably going to get what they want with Anthony. I don't think we would have really changed anything to do with the narrative of how clubs look at and deal with United when it comes to the Anthony situation. No one else has really come out. Well, other clubs have come in for him, like Saudi clubs. Not been interested in any of it. The Garnacho one, still nothing really being put in. We had the article yesterday that suggested United have actually rejected a couple of bids from Chelsea. We don't know the value of those bids, but they rejected those. I'm still waiting. United want 50 mil. And with Garnacho, we can afford to just put him into the shadows at the club as an example. I don't know whether we'll be able to do the same thing with Anthony. Maybe we'll do it with I suppose if you look at this, right, with the Hojlund situation, we're going to be including a loan fee plus wages covered. So if Real Betis want him on loan, then they can pay a big wedge of a loan fee and cover his wages and include an obligation. In fact, it's the same structure of a deal, no? No option here. You're not doing that. There is an obligation that is going to be easily achievable, like when he makes X amount of appearances. Don't quite know. And then, the biggest twat of them all, Sancho. Looks like he's completely and utterly killed the move to Roma through demands and through just who he is as a person. Has always felt all summer long that he has been wanting to leave United on loan this season so he could become a free agent next summer. And he's just pushed. He doesn't care about playing in the World Cup. He doesn't have any football ambition. That's what I mean. I'm convinced that Sancho doesn't want to be a footballer anymore. Convinced about it. It's almost an inconvenience to him. It just kind of makes it all the more ridiculous, really, how many clubs have actually come in for him this summer. Samir saying, I read something about United's threat to Sancho exercising the extension of the contract if he doesn't accept a transfer. Look, that would be a possibility, but it would be a bit of a foolish thing for United to do. United would then become liable for another, what is it? Across the course of the year, 14 mil in wages to Sancho if we were to exercise that extension. It's a big liability we'd be taking on. Now, it might work out and the threat might work. Yeah, sure, but that would be a massive liability to take on. So I can't give you any good news on Sancho. And I can't really give you any good news on any of the bomb squad. I can't really give you any good news on all the conversations that are happening around Kobbie. I hope that I've got good news to bring you after this game tonight. In an ideal situation, We get Šeško's first goal. We get Cunha's first goal. We get Mbumo's first goal. We get Kobbie having a cracking game. Don't know whether he played the full game or whether he'd be taken off after 60 so he could then be ready for Burnley. We don't know. That's what I want to see. I want to see United put them to the sword, score 4, score 5, do what we should be doing against Grimsby. I'm not saying that it'll be, everything's completely, but we should be putting goals past Grimsby. Goals are ultimately what is going to be what changes the mood for United fans. And unfortunately, first 2 games, we've had 1. I don't care about a clean sheet, John. I don't care about a clean sheet at any point this season. I really, really don't. We spent 200 mil to score goals aplenty. We might still concede, but I don't care. Go and win every game 5-3 for all I care. Jeez. I used to be much, much better at United not affecting my mood. But I think it's because we're so close as a community and I involve you all in the chat. I can see the discourse. Yeah, it definitely affects me more. I'll be here after the game. There's no point in me doing a lunchtime video. What, to moan about Mainoo situation more? I already did that video yesterday. I'll leave that. And I will be here after the game. Thank you all for getting involved. Make sure I didn't miss any super chats out towards the end of the show. Yeah, I'll take that 10-7 victory tonight. That's fine by me. Maybe not 10-7. Frank, I just, speaking of 10, just realised you gifted 10 memberships earlier. Sorry for missing that, dude. Thank you so much. Right. I'll see you after the game.